CNN. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about a new CNN poll that paints a pretty bleak national picture for Democrats. Only 19% of Americans say Democrats are the party that can get things done. 36% say the same of Republicans. Even fewer, 16%, say Democrats are the party with strong leaders. What drove those numbers so low is that most Democrats seem to have lost faith in their own party and its leaders. I asked one of those leaders, the House Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries, about this on State of the Union.
We don't have the presidency right now, so that's always going to be challenging a few months after a presidential election. But we have to continue to make the case, one, that Democrats, of course, are the party that is determined to make life more affordable for everyday Americans. There's real frustration amongst the American people. They should be frustrated.
But they're frustrated with you as well, with Democrats as well.
Of course, they're frustrated with the system. But what is interesting, Dana, I think you're aware of this, every single public poll that has come out since the Trump presidency has had congressional Democrats winning the generic ballot against congressional Republicans.
I'm joined by a terrific group of reporters here. CNN's Manu Raju, Aisha Roscoe of NPR, Eli Stokols of Politico, and CNN's Casey Hunt. Happy Monday, everybody.
Nice to see you.
Casey, what do you think about, first of all, just big picture on this poll and how people out there feel about the Democratic Party, and even more specifically, what the House Democratic leader said about it?
I think Democrats really dug themselves into a hole with this election. I think voters were telling them that they didn't trust what was going on with President Biden, that they didn't believe what they saw before their eyes. And then the way the campaign played out, I think, underscored a lot of people's fears about what was going on. And now that is the challenge that they have to, I don't think Hakeem Jeffries is incorrect in his assessment there, but I feel like, and Dan, I mean, you're out on the campaign trail as much as any of us. This is not a new thing that Democrats are saying is the way to fix things. So to my ear, it sounds like many people are basically saying, keep doing what we were doing before. We've just got to figure out a better way to get people to believe what we're saying, to believe, they poll test the messages. People like the messages, but they're short a messenger to deliver on it. And I'm not sure any of it gets fixed until that piece does.
What a gut punch this poll is. One gut punch after another. There's so many polls just showing the Democrats really in the abyss right now. And just the notion that they're viewed as the party that can't get things done by a significant portion of the country believes they can't and believe the Republicans can. I mean, remember, in the first 2 years of Joe Biden, they passed a lot of legislation and they kept saying, we got all this stuff done. We just need to communicate this better to the American public and sell them on what we're doing. They failed to do that very clearly. The public does not believe that they can get things done. I think another thing is a warning sign for that poll. They're still losing to the Republicans on the economy. And of course, that's going to be the number one issue. The margin is slipping a little bit for the Republican advantage on that, but that's going to be a concern going into the midterms.
Usually in politics, it's a seesaw, right? When one party goes down, the other party goes up. It's not happening now. I mean, there are people who are happy with what Donald Trump is doing, but there are a lot of people who are unhappy. I mean, his poll numbers, which is a point that Hakeem Jeffries was making, they're not good. But Democrats aren't benefiting from that.
I mean, Democrats are really adrift right now. And I think that, in 2020, when the Republicans lost that election, they had to figure out where they were going to go. But their base pretty much was like, look, we're still with Trump. We're going to be with Trump. And that's where we're at. The Democrats don't have that advantage because their base is kind of all over the place. And that's kind of the issue that they have. It's like, well, they get the message. Are they too to the left? Or do they need to fight harder to go to the left? Is it that they aren't actually, is it that they're not progressive enough or they're too progressive? And I think that that idea of the messenger is really key because I don't know that people really vote too much on policy. They really, at this point, we are in a personality-driven political cycle, and I think they need a personality.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because we saw a couple of personalities go to South Carolina over the weekend, potential candidates for president in 2028. One was the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. Listen to part of his message.
Gone are the days when the Democrats are the party of no and slow. We must be the party of yes and now. Gone are the days when we are the party of bureaucracy. Gone are the days when we are the party of multi-year studies on things that we already know. Gone are the days when we are the party of panels. Gone are the days when we are the party of college debate club rules. We must be the party of action, and that action must come now.
Well, if people need a personality, they need somebody who translates in this media environment. You know, Governor Moore could be one of those people. Clearly, the Democrats are in this ditch because for 4 years they had a president who could not drive any message. So he could not, as Manu said, explain to people, you know, all the things that they did legislatively. That, you know, in the Biden White House, they said, we did so many things. We had a historic presidency. Why don't people get it? Well, they didn't get it because you couldn't explain it and because things took too long, which is another thing that Wes Moore and a lot of Democrats are talking about is you can pass an infrastructure bill, but if it takes a decade to see the improvements, you know, you're not tackling the inflation in the here and now, it's not really going to amount to much politically. There's a long way to go. There is reason for Democrats, based on the experience of Trump's first term and what they saw in a couple one-off special elections, Democrats outperforming expectations just in the last few months with Trump in office. Maybe they will benefit from that, but they need a coherent philosophy. They need somebody to kind of step up and capture people's imaginations and break through. And right now they don't have that.
One thing, Dana, too, in being opposed to Donald Trump and the way that he has broken many norms, done all sorts of things that obviously many Democrats find to be straight up dangerous, in a lot of instances, they have wound up attacking Trump by defending the status quo. And that is not necessarily what Americans are telling them. Even the base of the Democratic Party are telling them what they want, that they want from them, right? They may not want Trump to break things the way he's breaking them or do the kinds of things that he is doing, but they don't want Democrats to fight that by just doing the same thing that they've been doing for the last few decades because it's not been working.
So it's what they fight, and then it's how they fight. Yep. Tim Walz, who was on the ballot with Kamala Harris in 2024, was also at that South Carolina event. Listen to what he said.
Nobody's riding in to save us. No great orator's going to come and make it happen. Nobody's going to have a consultant that gave them just the special word that all these people are going to say, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for Democrats now. They keep telling us we have to learn how to talk to people. Yeah, you got to go talk to people. That's pretty obvious. But we got to make sure that we're talking and listening at the same time.
I mean, look, right now the Democrats' best hope is for Republicans to overreach and mess up. Really, that's really their strategy.
Which may have already happened.
Right, it might have. The public has been concerned. Polls show that Trump has slipped on a whole wide range of issues, including on the economy. And the overreach is a real thing. When single-party rule, single parties tend to overreach, and there's a backlash in the midterms. And really, that's ultimately what may have to happen here until that personality emerges and becomes a standard bearer and can actually drive a message. But until then, some of them just say, let's sit back and watch.
And I mean, ultimately, you know, Trump, as far as we know, won't be on the ballot again for the presidency.
As far as we know.
And I mean, I think Republicans could have the same issue because Republicans have not been able to find someone to capture their base in the way that Trump has. And so I think, you know, Republicans may be looking for their next Trump the way that the way that Democrats are looking for their next Obama.
I think one of the reasons, though, Democrats need a big personality is because right now they're just completely absent from the conversation. It's Republican control in Congress. Republicans are arguing amongst themselves about the big, beautiful bill, and the White House is negotiating. Democrats are completely left out of that conversation. So I think the poll partly reflects the fact that the public doesn't hear much from Democrats at the moment.
Which is part of your point, which is some people are just fine to be left out of this particular conversation at this time. We'll see if that bears out.